One of the most frequent gameplay loops in the Fallout franchise is looting items and selling them to various shops littered around the map. But what if you couldn't shop? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas without vendors? Going into the new year has made me reflect on my spending habits, and although they haven't been terrible, they could certainly be better. That got me thinking, what would it be like to not buy anything at all? We've got some fun rules for this run, so let's get into it. I can't trade or purchase any items from any of the vending machines in the base game or the DLCs. This includes the Sync, Central Intelligence Unit, Commissary Terminals, or the Sierra Madre vending machines. I can't buy implants or doctor services. Repair services are not allowed. I can't store goods with the expectation that I will come back to them. Very hard difficulty and hardcore mode selected. Without further ado, get on your thigh highs because we've got some saving to do. Starting off, I named myself Butterfly and made myself look extra pretty so the man who shot me would still make me a target for a different kind of ammo. This was followed shortly by me stashing all my items in our favorite crate. For my special stats for this run, I went with notable 8 strength, 7 endurance, and 9 luck. I knew ammo was going to be a concern, so I wanted to make sure that I could hit things hard with a big stick if the situation arises. Taking a seat on Doc's oral sofa, I select survival, repair, and melee weapons for my tag skills, followed by Logan's loophole and skilled for my traits. Because everything in Doc Mitchell's house is completely free to steal, I pick up just about everything before activating hardcore mode and double checking that I am on very hard. Wanting an early boost to my damage, I grab the shovel by the second water well you visit in the tutorial and snag up Chance's knife at the gravesite just north of town. With a decent weapon now in hand, I dance my way past some rad scorpions and grab some goodies off of an NCR soldier who is having a rough day. I then pass by the power station and the trading post before getting my way to Freeside. Once in this lovely town, I decided to pick a fight with somebody who's in a completely different weight class. In the end, with the help of a little bit of staggering, I managed to put him down, allowing me to skip his associated quest for the king. Then I talk with Roy, Wayne, and Julie Farkas before ultimately easing the tension between the NCR and the Kings here in Freeside. This levels me up quite a few times, so I'm sure to dump points into survival and repair, as well as grab Black Widow for some fun with Benny, and Radchild because I love being called Daddy. Using the money that we got from the King, I get inside the strip before heading over to Fantastic at Helios 1 so that I could begin the Lucky Old Sun quest. Resetting both of the mainframe connections and dealing with a few dogs, I hacked the terminal inside to turn their turrets on their coworkers. Getting through the Mr. Gutsy with some cleverly placed mines, I send the power to Camp McCarran and the Las Vegas Strip before snagging my reward from Fantastic. Just north of Novak, I say hello to a few Viper leaders, that way I can get them naked for totally safe for work reasons. Be sure to always wear your PPE. With protection on my mind, I decided to go make out with Benny. Unfortunately, he pulls my hair just a little bit too hard, and I end up having to end his life, allowing me to pick up Super Slam for my melee weapons. At REPCON headquarters, I end up murdering quite a few ghouls, helping Blue Shreks find their true purpose in life, and watching missiles leave their home like my dad when he went to go get milk 13 years ago. At this point, I just kind of started to go around and see what the game was like. I came to appreciate Hydra and Doctor's Bags even more than usual because they allowed me to heal my crippled limbs, but I also found myself using a much greater variety of weapons, and was actually rather pleased with the Plasma Defender, though I'm usually not a huge fan. Forever and always on the XP grind, I creep my way through Black Mountain's exterior, repair Rhonda, and save Raoul before popping over to help the boomers. Loyal helps me repair the solar panels as well as eradicate all the ants, making Pearl pleased in more ways than one. I grab a rebreather from Jack, throw away some of my old gear, and steal some of the boomers' combat armor here in the hangars. Deciding that it'd be nice to not have a crippled head for a little while, I end up popping my only Hydra before making my way over the crashed B-29 and raising it up from the bottom of the lake. My game freezes like I do anytime I interact with femboys as I talk with Loyal, but Pearl agrees to join my side during the final battle of Hoover Dam. At the fort with a desire to give robots unrestrained use of missile launchers, I fight various protectrons and turrets in the bunker below, while pretending to work for both Mr. House and Caesar. One of the reasons why I had considered working for Caesar in the first place is the numerous boxes that you can be rewarded with that contain ammo and healing supplies. If I were to do this challenge again, I would have made more of an effort to agree with Caesar for that reason alone. That said, this does require being liked by the Legion, and you to be able to talk to a random NPC that is known for dying. If you're interested in doing a little bit more research, consider looking up Caesar's favor on the Fallout Wiki. Regardless, we won't be doing that this run, and are instead playing with Kachino's butthole before taking down Nero and Big Sal with their own weapons. Feeling a little bit chaotic at this point, I break into Mr. House's containment unit, and bring upon the end of his life like a vasectomy does for future offspring. Still having the ability to do quests on the strip in service of Yes Man, I take an alternative approach to taking care of the white gloves. Heck Gunderson tells me that his boy is missing. Marjorie tells me about a missing investigator, and Mortimer pushes me in the right direction. This leaves me to be beat up a little bit, but at this point it was only a matter of waiting to meet with Chauncey to learn more about what plagues this casino. I steal a key to get in the back half where the food is prepared before murdering Felipe, stealing some food, and serving a fake meal that is intended to replace the meat that Felipe was originally going to serve. That meat was Ted Gunderson, but we interrupt Mortimer's speech and cast him out of the group. Returning Ted to Heck, I complete the Beyond the Beef quest before joining the White Glove Society. The next folks that I'm looking to learn a little bit more about is the Great Khan, so I start heading in that direction while killing a bunch of fiends as I go. To get Papa Khan to break the alliance with Caesar's Legion, I start talking with Diane and Jack and learn that one of their runners is missing. Finding Anders on a cross and picking up the Legion's slave ledger, we convince all of the Khans that the red men in skirts are not great people. By ratting out Carl and obtaining a book from Ezekiel, we are able to finally convince Papa Khan to leave the Mojave. With this achievement, I put a few more points into melee weapons and grab jury rigging. Next up is saying hello to the Brotherhood of Steel. I kill the Ranger, grab some holotapes, and am tasked with the job of ensuring that they could all breathe. Snagging up the pressure controller in Vault 11, as well as the quest There Stands the Grass from Thomas Hilderin, I make my way to Vault 22 and deal with the various giant mantises. Heading straight for the Overseer's office, I unlock the various doors, grab the keycard, and make my way to the caves below. It is after dying multiple times due to surprisingly beefy mantises that I find Keeley, the researcher Angela sent me off to find. Downloading the data and subsequently blowing it up, I grab the cartridge filters before double dipping with both Keeley and Thomas Hilderin. The last part I need for the Brotherhood of Steel is located within the Fiend's territory, so I do a little bit of preparation. This consists of grabbing another set of combat armor from the Boomers, a Great Khan's outfit for a little bit of a disguise, and the shipment for Motor Runner from Diane. Slicing my way through the Fiends at the entrance, I equip the Great Khan's outfit and grab the part before talking with Motor Runner. Both Diane and the Brotherhood of Steel are pleased, but to become a member, I need to turn on the radio at Black Mountain before heading back to Hidden Valley and equipping my power armor. I then of course steal a super sledge and equip a much better set of power armor before dropping anything that I'm not using. With that preparation complete and my desire to not have my screen fade out like me anytime I've almost asphyxiated myself, we go to Big Mountain. Getting done with Dr. Klein, it was at this point in the run that I stared at the auto dock for quite some time. I came to the conclusion that it would only feel like I would be cheating myself. Because of that, after grabbing the personality and the X2 antenna, I decided to avoid healing my broken limbs outside of the various stages when cybernetic limbs are being installed for progression, and instead pursue the stealth suit. Applying a stealth boy, I grabbed the document and beat up a bunch of robo-scorpions. At a separate testing facility, I spent an absurd amount of time fighting dogs and learning about the crazy tests they did here, including the creation of Gabe and the FitnessGram Pacer test. It was only roughly 15 minutes after that I completed the advanced training, in which I obtained the upgraded sonic emitter. I had hoped that by reducing my ammo consumption for this particular area, it would entice me to fight more, and that much was certainly true. The enemies are arguably tough and boring, but fortunately a good variation including Night Stalkers, cybernetic dogs, and cazadors keep me on my toes, my sweet, sexy toes. The experimental testing puts me through quite the ringer, but with a little bit of persistence, I come out on the bottom just the way I like. Still pushing through, I return back to the sink where I stare longingly at the auto dock again, before limping my way over to Dr. Klein. With the technologies in hand, I bum rush the giant robo-scorpion. This of course goes terribly, and I end up having to use quite a lot of science to be able to complete this task. By turning on the drones, I'm able to distract the robo-scorpion while I run around and turn on turrets to lower its health before dishing out the final blow myself. After taking Dr. Mobius out, the sweet old man robot that he is, I was able to finally seduce my brain. The way its Sulkai and Gairai provide elevation to itself makes me want to stick my tongue out and fill all of its orifices. After turning on my horny filter, I take my big hammer and shove it up all the doctors as if I was performing a prostate exam. With Old World Blues completed, I open up a random toolbox and dump off any of the DLC related items that I don't feel like I need. Afterwards, I return to Black Mountain for some extra weapon durability. It turns out that super mutants are still rather deadly, so I end up having to pop a couple chems, but I end up with quite a few super sledges. I will say that it does feel a little sad without talking to vendors and selling them my old gear. The road sure does feel lonely. Once inside the missile silo, I immediately talk with Eddie, open up the blast doors, grab one of his 4 upgrades, and beat the mother-loving hell out of all the sentry bots and turrets. The biggest issue that you have with this group of foes is the rocket launcher on the sentry bot, knocking you back harder than your first time getting railed. Fortunately, getting close completely shuts them up when combined with Super Slam. The typical run through Lonesome Road is an absolute bloodbath, and increased wasteland spawns certainly exemplifies this fact, by essentially doubling or sometimes even tripling the amount of spawns. The only disadvantage of doing this is that it means that encounters typically take 3 times the toll on my body and supplies. After grabbing the laser detonator and taking care of a few baddies outside, I put it to good use with my broken limbs. I then take every chem imaginable and proceed to slaughter roughly 24 marked men, including the uniquely named Blister. I died at least 4 times in this area, which is saying something considering the fact my health regeneration should be enough to deal with essentially anything, but unfortunately the number of enemies that we have here is causing more to spawn with explosive weapons, such as grenades and launchers, making this situation more explosive than my diarrhea. I wasn't particularly curious to see how many tunnelers would end up spawning, especially of the invisible variety, so I blasted through and got to where the beast is at. Let's just say that he took a little bit of a vacation and won't be clocking back in anytime soon. Most of the time I didn't really notice the fact that I couldn't trade, but as someone who walks away from Lonesome Row with almost 40,000 caps, it certainly hit me that I wasn't benefiting that much from having so many items, and that only the few things on my person were actually useful. Without Purifier and a few other handy melee perks, I wasn't quite comfortable dealing with the Deathclaws, so I ended up relying on the flare gun to get me through. While this certainly took some doing, something that took even more doing was getting through the next marked men camp. My ultimate strategy for dealing with so many foes is to simply hide behind a wall and section them off as if you were eating a very large cake. By only eating one part at a time, you can mentally allow yourself to push through and truly make yourself miserable. I'm sorry if you have an eating disorder, and I hope that you find your path to recovery as smooth as my freshly shaven balls. Pressing a button and watching something explode, I level up to level 24, where I had hoped to take Slayer. Unfortunately, it requires 7 agility, and that isn't something that we have access to at this point. I would normally go back and buy the implants at the clinic, but not being able to purchase things makes that a little bit difficult. In the end, I had settled on using intense training to level up agility once, as well as accounting for the additional special point that you gained at the end of this DLC. This did unfortunately mean that I would have to forgo getting better criticals, which is another indication that this build is highly unoptimized. The tunnelers in the explosive elevator managed to be a little bit of a break from the marked men. Rushing my way through the next zone, I grab another one of Eddie's upgrades and end up blowing up several more warheads. This is slightly trickier than what you'd expect with broken limbs, but fortunately we have plenty of steady that makes this a little bit of an easier task. I had a lot of close calls in this area as enemies seemingly spawned indefinitely, to the point where I actually relied on stealth to avoid enemies and wait for my health to regenerate. That being said, it wasn't long before I was through yet another section of the map, and well on my way to getting to Ulysses. Disarming various explosives from a safe distance, I mentally prepared myself to go through the cave of the Abaddon. I tend to struggle with this area quite a lot, for numerous reasons, but with this character I managed to get a stupid amount of XP, to the point where it almost leveled me up an entire level. I will mention again that it was very difficult for me to not use an auto-dock to restore my limbs, but the Old World Blue surgeries make that burden easier to bear. Regardless, we get to Eddie. I fling Ulysses off into the nearby pit, clear out the marked men, and let my sexbot cancel the launch and prevent the NCR or the Legion from suffering. Once outside and in the special increase menu, I pick agility, deal with a few coyotes, and return to the strip to see an old friend. With Yes Man now in place, I grab Slayer and go on a little bit of a murder spree. I start at the station full of bottoms for quest-related purposes before making my way to the Mojave Outpost, where I put my bumper sword and increased speed to good use. Once you get to this point in the game, most common enemies are particularly easy, but one always stands out in the wall of red, Prim Slim. With the way his health scales, it makes my thighs quiver every time I have to be in his presence, let alone put him down. Fortunately, with making the NCR an enemy, I can pick up power armor at their camps, including from Forlorn Hope. Once done with my fun there, I head over to the nearby Legion camp before going to see what the Deathclaw Promontory looks like. To put it simply, I had to decrease the number of spawns. When you throw a grenade and your game starts to lag with how many particles and entities that it is tracking, that's when you know that there are too many enemies. The only way that I would seriously attempt this is by having an anti-material rifle with explosive rounds. Regardless, I sat there for 20 minutes and used all the rounds I had. With that in mind, I headed off towards the northwest portion of the map, where I dealt with more Cazadors, several different varieties of geckos, and found myself in Silver Peak Mine. As someone who doesn't get to explore very often, this was a treat, and I appreciated being able to kill the numerous Cazadors inside for not only the final amount of experience that I needed, but also the Remnant's power armor helmet found behind a metal gate. Now level 30, I began the final battle of Hoover Dam. This run was very interesting to see that the vendors aren't as essential as what I typically make them out to be, but it certainly changed the perks that I used. While only using what you loot is fun, I did feel slightly underpowered and the number of chems that I had access to was limited, making Logan's loophole a blunder at best. Not being able to obtain healing from a doctor also made this a little bit tricky. A strategy for approaching a no vendor challenge that I ruled out almost immediately was being able to store excess items, to be able to utilize it as a makeshift store later on, but that was negated by my particular rule set. Another fun idea would be allowing yourself to use the dead money vending machine, thus allowing you to stock up on healing supplies, but again, Owl likes things nice and hard. Overall, I'm very happy with the outcome. I know that many other players have done runs that require less supplies, such as only using items that you can obtain through crafting, but I hope that my use of mods to increase spawns made this interesting to watch. With the murder of Legatlaneus and General Lee Oliver, I proved that yes, you can beat Fallen to Vegas without vendors.